Hello friends, beginners of crochet. In this video I will show you how to use a hook and help you to identify the parts of a hook, which yarn to choose, how to read the band, and to do a few stitches to get you started in crochet. Let's get started. Now that you have decided to learn how to crochet, please note that this is not a homework project. You're not being tested. It's all part of enjoyment for the leisure activity. When you go to the store and you find a color and the thickness of yarn that you would like to work with, one of the things that you're going to be looking at is the band on this, which is called a skein of yarn. As we look around it, the manufacturer gives a lot of information about how to wash it or dry it, if you should use an iron or bleach. As we go down, it suggests no ironing, and apparently it doesn't really want you to do a lot of hot work. The reason being, as we keep going around, we're going to find that this yarn is, let me find it, I believe it's 100% acrylic. Yes, right here. It says what kind of yarn we have right here. This particular yarn that I'm going to show you how to crochet with is bulky number 5. If you use knitting needles later on, it gives you a suggestion of what size hook you should use, or knitting needles, but we're not going to do that. We're doing crochet. So here we have a picture of a crochet hook, and it recommends 8mm for this particular yarn. As we go around, we can see who made the yarn and what the name of it is called. The manufacturing of this is Loops and Threads. This one's called Charisma. You'll see a second name here that's usually in a second language, French or Spanish or something. Sometimes the back of the band will offer a pattern. Usually when they put a picture on the front, sometimes there's a pattern underneath. It tells us how many yards or the weight of this particular skein of yarn. In the United States we use yards. Most other places use the metric scale with grams. Now, when you buy yarn and you think you may need 2 or 3, one of the things you want to do is take note of the name of the yarn. Well, this one is for that pattern, so let's go down. Here we have the lot number, the color, and other numbers here. This one is called Passion because of the various colors that it has into it. When you purchase more yarn, you want to make sure all of these numbers are identical so that the dye lot will match as you do this project. So if you wanted to make this scarf, and if this scarf apparently right here is saying 4 of these, you'd want to make sure all 4 of these numbers here on each of your skein of yarn matches. So now that we've gotten that, we want to go ahead and pull out our 8mm crochet hook, which I have right here. I think my lighting will let me show you that this is a size L and it's an 8mm crochet hook. So before we move on, let's talk a little bit about our crochet hook. This portion of our crochet hook is called the handle. Some people use it this way, Some people use it this way. It's whichever way you find comfortable. You'll notice that it has a flat section in here. This is usually so you can grip it with your thumb, and on the back will normally be flat or something so that you can place a finger or a thumb over that section. From here down, we have what is known as the shank. When we break the shank down, we have right here, which is the neck or the thread guide area of our hook. We can also call it the throat, which would be in this area right here. The very end of our hook is called the lip. The undersection here is called the bowl. I prefer not to use all these names. I like to say I have a crochet hook, this is the size, and this is what I will need for this skein of yarn. I would like to show you that when you have other size hooks, like this one I'm showing you here is a 2.75. Look how much smaller it is. But this is designed for smaller yarn or crochet thread. Hooks also come in different kinds. We have bamboo hooks, we have metal, we have plastic. Okay, and here I have another one here, which is aluminum. This one is a 10 millimeter. This would be used for bulky 6 or bulky 7 yarns. I also have a hook that I really like. This one is known as an ergonomic hook, and the reason why it's called that way is it's because it's the same as this. It has an additional grip so that as you crochet, you'll notice your hands won't get tired, and you can do with the stitches as easily as possible. Some of these other ones on the handle is just pure metal, so you have to hold it a little differently. All right, so now that we've talked about hooks and our yarn, let's get started on learning how to make a slip stitch and a chain stitch. Well, I got a little ahead of myself, so before we move on, let's go ahead and take our band off of our skein of yarn and take a look on the inside, and you'll see here is the pattern for the picture that is here on the front. Okay, we're not going to do that. I'm going to show you two different ways that you can pull yarn from our skein. We have where it's on the outside, so you can pull, looks like they put that one on the inside to end it, so this would be the outside, or you can separate your yarn in the center and find the center and pull out the yarn. Now, this is where a thing called yarn barf comes into play. And the reason why they do that is it happens every once in a while. Sometimes you can get lucky and find the right one. Oh, here we go. Yarn barf. You laughing? It's funny. So in here I can see, here we go. Here's our end piece from the center. Okay, so we want to make sure that there's no other tangles in there. And usually when I start with yarn, I always pull it from the center. So let's go ahead and do that after you've played with your yarn barf. Let's go ahead and start with a slip knot and a chain stitch. So to help understand a little bit more about yarn and various ways when people talk in videos that you may see or in the instructions, let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen. When you want to place a slip knot and you have a short section of yarn, this is known as the tail. Where my fingers are at will be considered the working area, because your hook will be up in this area, and your yarn that comes from your skein will be known as the working yarn. All right, so let's place a small amount. I would say the length of your hand would be good. That's about 6 inches. And the reason why I suggest that is because when you place a tapestry needle onto your yarn, you'll want to weave in and have enough so that you can have the length of your yarn on your needle, as well as to weave in your work without worrying if your yarn is going to come through the eye of your needle. So if we start over here, let's learn how to make a slip knot. Always the first thing on a hook before we start crochet. Now what I would like to do is take the yarn and place it in between your hands like this. So our tail comes down and falls onto the table. With your, I'm right-handed, so I'm showing a right-handed method, but left-handed, I guess I'm not being fair to you. Place it in your other hand, and everything I say right would be left. So I'm sorry. Okay, so in our left hand, we're going to go ahead and pinch it between our finger and our thumb. Then wrap it around like this till you have our working yarn going over the top of our tail. Then pinch where those two are at, and then take our working yarn and bring it up through the center of that loop and hold on to that loop. You'll notice that this creates like an overhand knot over our working yarn, and we can pull our tail and it'll tighten it right up. Let's take our hook and go through the loop. Then we can pull our working yarn, and you'll see how it'll shorten down and end up on our hook. You want to try it one more time? Okay, let's take our hook out of our loop and grab each ends on both sides, and it'll come right undone. So let's try it one more time. Let's place our tail in the center of our hand with our finger and thumb, pinch it, wrap it around your finger, and your working yarn will be on the top. Then take your thumb and pinch right here at that X and pull your finger out of that loop. With our working yarn, let's pull it up through the center of that loop. Make it a little bit bigger. Okay, then place our hook inside that loop we just made and pull the other loop tight. Not too tight, just snug it up. Then we're going to take our working yarn. I know you're thinking, wow. Okay, so now we have one loop on our hook. Are you ready to start chain stitching? Okay, so this is how I hold my hook, kind of like, I don't know how you call it. That's how I hold my hook. My grandmother taught me how to crochet back in the 1960s. Yes, I'm that old. And so I'm showing you the same way she showed me. So our wrists are going to be kind of flexible here. So as we go under, oops, I forgot one thing. Okay. I got so ahead of myself, sorry. We want to place the yarn in our hand. So we're going to take our working yarn and we're going to go in between our little finger and our ring finger and wrap it around and then pull over to go in between your pointy finger and your other finger. Okay, the little finger here will help control the tension as you make your stitches. And as you fold it this way, you'll notice that as you pull your little finger, if you open it, it comes easy. If you close it, and there's really no effort, so it doesn't make your hand tired. Very simple. So let's try it again. Bring the yarn through the little finger and the ring finger and wrap it around. Okay, so we have it a little loose. Come up in between the other finger and your pointy finger and then come over. Okay, so your little finger, the one that we don't hardly ever use much, is going to control the tension as we crochet. Now I'm going to take this finger and my thumb, and either I can pinch it here or I can use the next finger and pinch my work where my knot is. Then I'm going to take my hook. Notice how the point of the hook is aiming up. I'm going to go under the yarn, the working yarn, and I'm going to twist it gently, and the hook will be aiming down as it goes through the loop on the hook. And then when you bring it back up, your hook will be aiming up again. So let's try it again. Pinch with your middle finger and your thumb your work. We're going to go under the working yarn, and as you turn your hook down, you're going to be coming through that loop that was on your hook, and you've created a second chain. Let's continue on. And you'll notice that every time I make a chain, I grab the next one. Okay? Now, I do want to point out, if you're going real tight, it's going to be really hard to pull it through. And if you pull it too tight, you see how your chain is not the same size as the rest of them? That's where your tension will be too tight. You need to loosen up on your little finger a little bit. And then we have to take that one out. We can enlarge that again and put our hook in it. And then snug it up. See, the size of the hook I'll bring my camera in a little bit closer. I'm going to show you the difference on these chains of usually when you make a first row for a foundation stitch. Now as we look at our chains, you'll see that we have 1, 2, and 3 parts of a chain. Okay? Even if we went back, the bottom and the top tells us that that is a complete chain. The one in the middle is where the yarn came through so that we could create another chain. So let's put our hook back in and go ahead and place the yarn back in your hands. Tighten up the loop, and we're going to skip this first chain. Do not count the one on your hook. This first chain we're going to skip, and in the next one we're going to go under 2 of the loops of the next chain. So take your hook, place your finger on top of that loop on your hook, and with the pointy end of your hook go under the 2 and through to the other side. Okay, now with our working yarn right here in our finger, we're going to put the yarn on our hook and pull it through. And notice how I'm allowing tension so that I can have a nice loop on our hook. Okay, I still have my finger on that loop from before we started this single crochet stitch. Now I'm going to go over, take the yarn and go over the hook, aim the hook down, and come through both loops on our hook, and this completes our first single crochet. Let's try it one more time. Place your finger on the loop on your hook, under 2 of those loops of the chain, and go through. Take your working yarn and have your hook pull it through and bring up a loop that's the same size as your hook. You don't want it tight. Okay? Then have your working yarn go over your hook, aim your hook down. You can let go of that top loop and pull it through both. You've now created 2 single crochets. You ready to pick up the pace just a little bit? Okay, finger on loop, under 2 parts of the chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, the hook through the 2 loops that was on your hook, and you completed another single crochet. One more time. Now, do you understand how many we have made so far? Well, let's count and find out. We have 1. See our little V here? And this up here. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? Can you continue to the end of the row? I'm going to give you a little challenge. I'm going to show you one more time, and then you can go to the end of the row. So finger on the loop, yarn through those 2 on the chain, pull up the loop, yarn over, through 2. I'll let you do 3 by yourself. When you get there, stop, and I'm going to encourage you to stop your video so you can do those 3 on your own. So how did you do? I hope you didn't have any problems with it. You know, with it being a video, you can always refer back a few frames to help you to understand it some more. So at the end of this row, we should have 9 single crochet. Even though we chained with 10, the first one we skipped so that we could allow the height of our chain to be the same height as our single crochet. Okay, so since we skipped one chain, in order to start a new row, we're going to chain 1. So we have our loop on our hook, so we're going to take and go under, and now we have one chain that we created. So let's turn our work. Basically we're flipping it, but in crochet terms it's usually called turn your work. We have our first hole right here, and we're going to go ahead and just place it under the top of this. It looks like a chain, and it has 2 parts. With your finger on your loop, take your hook, go through, place the yarn over the top of the hook, and pull it back through. It's the same as what we did on our first row. Then we want to take our hook and have the yarn go over the top of it again and pull it through both loops. So we now have a chain 1 to go up and a single crochet, and this begins row 2. Okay, so here's our next opening. You see how we have like a little bump on the back? We're going to skip past that, and between those 2 little bumps right there is an opening. So we're going to place our finger on our loop and go through that opening, place the yarn over the top of the hook, and then pull it through. Yarn over the hook and pull it through the 2 loops on your hook. Can you do this to the end of the row? Do it till you come down to here, and I'll show you how to finish this row here. As you're doing this, I would like for you to count. We've done 1 and 2. So let's do number 3. Number 4. Whoops, I was going to make a different stitch. Number 5. Number 6. Number 7. Number 8. Okay, so here's our 9th one. This is our chain that we skipped from that first row. So between this bump and this little bump, we're going to go in between just like we normally would. Pick up some yarn and complete number 9. Here we have completed 2 rows of single crochet with a chain 1 at the beginning of the row. Let's do that for row 3. Either you can go on your own or stay with me and I'll pick up the pace and we'll go on to row 3. So before we move on, I always like to make sure that I have my yarn pulled out of my skein. This way I can help control the tension that goes through my fingers without it creating a tighter stitch when I actually wanted a looser stitch. So if you pull some out and set it to the side, it will not be as hard as if it was coming out of the skein itself. So moving on to row 3, let's do what we're supposed to do to get our next row at the same height. Do you remember what that is? Okay, yes, it's a chain. So we have our loop on our hook, so we're going to take the yarn and go over the hook and pull it through, and then basically flip our work, but we need to use the correct terminology, turn our work, and then in our first hole right here, we're going to place our first single crochet. So finger on that loop, go through that space, pull up a loop, yarn over through 2. Okay, I've done 1. I'm going to count as we go along. There's 2, 3, 4, 5. I want you to also notice I'm taking my middle finger and my thumb and I'm pinching my work as I go along. The secret to a lot of crochet is the proper tension. Okay, here I am at number 9. So how did you do? So I'm going to encourage you to keep trying, keep making single crochets and chain. You can make a scarf, you can make a coaster, you can make a baby blanket, you can make many things from this. Now if you want, here's a little bonus. If you would like what is called the moss stitch, I'm going to show you a little secret. We've created a single crochet. We're going to chain 1. We're going to skip the next stitch because the chain 1 is the same equivalent as that chain. So into the next stitch, our single crochet. Chain 1. Skip the next stitch and single crochet into the next one. Chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in that last one. Okay, you're going to see a little bit of different pattern. So this is our little bonus. Now we're going to chain 1 to turn. Okay, but our single crochet is right here. So we need another chain. So let's chain 1 more. And then in this chain 1 space, we're going to place our single crochet. Chain 1, and this is going to go over this single crochet from the previous row, and we're going to single crochet in that chain 1 space. Okay, chain 1, skip the single crochet in the chain 1 space, and you have a different pattern, all with single crochet and chain stitching. Now we can go back to our single crochet immediately, just like this, because the first 3 stitches that I did was single crochet. All right, so to finish our row, we want to place a tail about 6 inches long. I'm going to use my scissors here. Cut your yarn. Please don't pull it. You could cut your fingers, and I don't want you to hurt yourself because this stuff is really strong. It'll last a long time, so please use scissors or fingernail clippers if you have to. Then through the loop, bring that cut working tail through, and that'll keep it from unraveling. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on beginning crochet. Please come back and we'll have another one on how to do the half double crochet and the double crochet stitch. So till next time, bye-bye.